Welcome to 2 Minutes of Torah. This year is entitled Israel, a nation that no longer dwells alone. Israel, a nation that no longer dwells alone. On the one hand, we have a pasuk, Am Levadad Yishkon, that we are supposed to be alone. On the other hand, we're all the Goyim, we're light to the nations. So our relationship with the rest of the world is fascinating. So when it comes to spiritual matters, we have to be alone. And we have to have our own values based on the Torah, based on a Masorah, and that's it, and not be influenced from the rest of the world. What is good, what is right, what is proper. Those values come from one place only, the Torah, our Masorah, the written law, and the oral law. That's it. But yet, in order to influence the world, we need to have a connection to the rest of the world. And it's very, very delicate balance. How, on the one hand, we interact with the world, on the other hand, we spiritually keep our distance. It is not easy, and very often it's gray. But that is not my focus right now. I want to focus on the connection that we have to the world. If you ask anyone in Israel, outside of Israel, any Jew, how does the rest of the world relate to us? So we're immediately going to come to think about the hatred. The world absolutely hates us. Syria is massacring their people, North Korea, so many of the Arab states, the African states, unbelievable horrors. And of course, you could be sure the UN condemnations are going to be against Israel more than all the other nations combined. And the UN, of course, represents the world. So there you have it. The world hates our guts no matter what. We could go ahead and send relief around the world, be the first country to set up field hospitals when there's a disaster, an earthquake, anywhere around the world. We'll be there. Doesn't matter. Everyone hates our guts, and that's just a reality. But the facts say something very, very different. Listen to some of the statistics here. It's fantastic. This is an article in the Jerusalem Post by Herb Canon a few weeks back. Listen to some of the facts, and it's entitled "A Nation That Dwells Alone with a Question Mark." Are we really a nation that dwells alone? He's not focused on the spiritual matters. He's focusing on the physical, military, economic, political aspects. And here's some of the facts. He says the following. In 1990, the Jerusalem Post had a dry bones cartoon where one figure said to the other one, I have good news, I have bad news. Good news is the whole world is united. So the other fellow said, well, what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is they're all united against Israel. So people feel that way today, but the facts don't speak that way at all. Here are the facts. Israel's face became nothing less than a world power. Netanyahu always says that, which person says, okay, of course Bibi's going to say that, but it's not just his claim. Despite impressive trade figures and even with the most critical European countries, despite a parade of visitors to the country that would make similar-sized countries such as Serbia, Austria, Papua New Guinea blush. The amount of visitors from now around the world leaders that we have is unbelievable. So people always have this negativity despite the facts. Despite the fact that he is getting more invitations for visits abroad than he can deal with. All the countries are having him. There's a confluence of interests it has never enjoyed before with numerous Arab states, including the two countries with which it has peace treaties, Egypt and Jordan, and with some countries with which it does not have formal diplomatic ties, such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The common threats of Iran and radical Islamic terrorism of both the Sunni and Shia variety have led to the much-discussed hush-hush cooperation between Israel and those countries. There's no formal recognition. There's no formal negotiations going on with us in those countries, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, but that be a little beneath the surface. We know what's going on. Israel is an open, constructive line of communication with Russia. Both countries understand the other's interests, though they may not always concur in policy. Ties with India are nothing less than in the golden age. Trade with China just keeps growing. These are facts, easily checked out, easily verifiable. That has broken important ground in Israel's relations with Africa and Latin America. Numerous countries in both continents eager to cooperate and do business. Just this week, he went to Africa for the third time in 18 months. And he met with leaders of 10 African states. These are facts. The world leaders want to meet with Bibi. So just to think of where we are in the world based on UN condemnations, it's a very, very small window into reality, a warped one. Ties with Asia and Latin America are opening up critical markets, while good relations with Africa are slowly eroding the automatic anti-Israel majority in international forums. On December 11th, Netanyahu was the first Israeli prime minister in memory to address all the EU's foreign ministers at one of their regular meetings in Brussels. The EU, they hate us. We know the EU. And still, they had him speak. And the UN has him speak. So the UN, of course, we know hates us, but still, Bibi speaks there very often. So it's cold relationship, but there's something there. There's a relationship. And finally, as Romanian Foreign Minister Teodor Melescarnu said, I believe honestly that Israel's diplomatic situation now is maybe one of the best in the history of the Jewish state. It's one thing for Bibi to say this. It's one thing to hear it from the foreign minister of an EU state. So this is where the facts are. How this will interplay with the spiritual idea of the Yoshev Levad, that spiritually we must stay alone, meaning we cannot let any foreigners affect our spirituality and our values. The interplay between our spirituality being an Or L'Goyim, a light to the nations, that of course has to be seen how that's going to develop. But in terms of our recognition and the attitude of the world around us, it is unbelievable. And just to finish off with some more facts from another article about Israel no longer standing alone, here are just some facts to conclude. Bibi said that we have been taken out of the proposed myth of isolation. The myth that we have that we're isolated, just not true. He says we've gone from the myth of isolation to diplomatic relations with 159 countries. During 2017, 300 world leaders visited Israel. 300 world leaders, as well as 1,800 international influencers. In addition, Netanyahu has made 21 foreign visits on 6 continents, in some cases being the first sitting prime minister of Israel to visit those countries. Israel also has relations at some level with most of the other countries in the world, with the notable exception of Iran. These are just facts, and it's important to understand them and see them and embrace them and appreciate them. The world has accepted us in an unbelievable way. These articles were in actually before Trump announced that Jerusalem is our capital. Before this, all the countries around the world slowly recognizing the importance of Israel, that we are a power to be reckoned with, and that it is worth it to be connected to us. Where this is all heading, who knows? We will see. But it is something that just a few decades ago, no one could have ever imagined. We should appreciate this bracha and be excited about where it's all heading. Shalom.